Oh,
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Andy. Hello, Ronnie.
Hi,
good
Natalie.
evening.
Hi, Andy.
Hi. Hello,
How,
Ronnie.
how are you both?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
brilliant. Love the setup, Andy. It looks brilliant behind you. You've got good studio
Can I,
there.
can I check this out? Right. Cat Stevens. Thank you
Nice.
very much. One of my students named that. I was amazed that they even knew. I was thinking, you're like 11. How do you know who Cat
Ah,
Stevens is?
brilliant.
I was like, that's perfect. Their parents, they are staying in my book of I will keep you till you go to uni. You can stay,
Amazing.
however much
Oh,
you work.
love it. Well, hello, everybody. I can see we've got about 6 or 8 fluctuating people who've already tuned in. So thanks very much for tuning in and for watching.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, if you know anybody who would enjoy watching this evening's Facebook Live, do feel free to share, tag, invite all your friends and fam. I'm Natalie. I support Ronnie with the digital side of all things Guitar Weekends. Ronnie is business owner for Guitar Weekends, and the awesome Andrew Moore is one of the tutors who will be talking us through the 3 Ps for all players.
The 3 Ps. Well, it could be anything, couldn't it? If you're a lover of Amazon, it's a parcel. If you like vegetables, it's peas. And if you're a parent like me, it's going, can we go to the playground? But Ronnie and I were talking about just some because when you're teaching, you often come up with silly little terms. I have my little black book of what my students say, which is just comments that they come out with, which are just brilliant. That's going in that book. But we were talking about it with a student the other day, and we were talking about how there's really 3 stages of learning, and the first one is obviously you have to practice. There's P number 1, and most people can practice. I mean, we get a little bit stuck in finding time to practice, and I think that's it's really difficult for students, and as a teacher, we have to realize that whether or not it's a 6-year-old or it's a 60-year-old, actually the same problem applies. Life is busy, and finding time to practice is the first difficult thing. And when you start to practice, you're trying to create a habit. So they kind of say that you need to do something like 23 days in a row before it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, you just do it. It's like, people who start going to the gym. I tried to do that last summer. I didn't get into the habit, so I can't say that I fulfilled my first P. But, so that's the first one, and knowing how to practice. And the second P is having the patience while you practice. I think a lot of us in any role that we have in life, or when we have to go and do a job before we get the job we really want, oh my God, right? Or when you've got somebody at work that might be annoying you, you just got to practice getting yourself up in the morning, getting in there, and then having the patience to get through the day and not get annoyed with things. Because I think a lot of us give up on stuff quicker than we should do because we're just generally tired. We get frustrated in life, and then we kind of move on from it. And the third one is a bit similar to patience, not in the sense that patience being there to stop us getting annoyed with ourselves. And the third one is perseverance. I think again we can really give up too quickly. And how do you achieve those 3 things is really what we need to kind of get our heads around. I think in terms of how we practice and when we practice needs to really you need to work out your schedule, guys, when you're practicing, and say, well, when do I have time? If you're going to sit down after a whole day's work, then I would say sit down and play for the enjoyment of it. Pick something up that have a go at it, because you're going to be tired, and you're not going to get tons and tons of really good practice done when you're shattered, and therefore you won't have the patience to do it, and you won't have the perseverance to stick it out.
Andy, I've got another P to throw in. I keep looking this way because there's a pheasant. So there's a P. There's a pheasant bashing itself on the window here.
Well, maybe it's saying it's ready for you to eat it. It's like, I've had enough.
Let's not go there.
I've had enough.
And
sorry,
Ronnie, I was just going to say that actually we've got quite a few more people joining us live now, and I don't want to kind of get in the way of you guys' conversation. So what I will say is, if anybody has any questions, I'm going to duck off for 20 minutes and let these guys have a really great conversation about those 3 Ps that Andy's just introduced for us. We welcome loads of questions, so please do pop them into the comments box. I'm going to add a few links as well about upcoming courses with Andy and the rest of the tutors. Ronnie will keep an eye out for any questions coming through. If they're picked up, I'll jump on at the end as well. All right.
Awesome.
So get
Thank you,
commenting, and
Natalie.
I will speak to you guys in a bit.
See you in a minute.
I thought Mike Davenport was going to put a question up there, but he just said Andy. So my reply to you, Mike, is Mike. So I hope that answers that question. Yeah, no, I mean, we see this quite a lot. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, kids, they must get it better than adults. And I don't think that's right, really. You know, we were discussing this before we came on. I just think it's just down to, part of it's down to character. You know, some people can say, oh, that person's just naturally talented, but it still comes down to practice. You know, you can be absolutely amazing at something, but you
Andy,
still have to practice.
You know, after all years of teaching, doing one-on-ones and then doing groups, which is interesting, you must get people who turn up and they say, I'd like to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to do it today. I mean, well, how
there's the second, and there's the second one straight out the window. Patience. You know, I think sometimes, especially when you're doing online courses, or let's say when we do a guitar weekend, we've gone away for a weekend. Now, look, I'm going to put my heart and soul into trying to. You missed the heart that went into it. Thank you, Mike. I just said the word heart and up he popped. You know, I'll put my heart and soul and get as much information for you guys to take away. But I think that we have to be realistic, that we have to take that away. I would almost say a lot of the time, if you think that an online course is going to be above your standard, that doesn't mean you shouldn't come on. Because I find myself, I've learned loads when I was younger going to masterclasses and simply sitting there and listening. You know, I think you can miss a lot. So the thing I think you can do with an online class is you can miss a lot just because you're trying so hard just to play. Okay, and maybe you're not just focused on what you're supposed to be listening to, and you need to say, right, well, if this is a topic like, let's say we did putting bar chords into practice. I think that was last Monday, wasn't it? Okay, there's a lot that goes into it. Now, the concept behind it is quite simple. The application takes time, and that's where you've got to have the patience, and you've got to just say to yourself, you know, 10 minutes. Focus practice with the thing I always bring up, you know, when I get the stopwatch up on the phone and I say, right, look, you know, 2 minutes doesn't sound long. Oh my God, 2 minutes is so long. If it's the same thing round and round and round. And that's the other thing. I think we've got to know, when should we practice, Ronnie? Like, what is a good time of day for me to practice? You know, if you are someone that is, you know, able to practice in the morning, you know, before you do other stuff, you just have a cup of tea, do 15, 20 minutes and then have breakfast. That's probably an incredibly good time to practice, unless you've had no sleep. And then you need to set a goal. What am I trying to achieve? And put it in the diary of, do you know what, by this point, just like if you like, you would say to me, if you're building a business plan or whatever, and you've got an end goal of when you want to start that business, I'm going to put dates in the diary of things I have to get done by that point. Okay, that's my progress report. Same thing with practice. The other thing is knowing how to practice. I think this is where most people go wrong. What do we all do? We pick up our guitar and we play the things we know, the things we can already play, because it satisfies our soul. It makes us feel happy and we feel great. Now, that's fine, but you then can't come, you know, and then kind of get frustrated with yourself and not have the patience to kind of progress. If you're not going to say, no, that's the thing I must do last. You know, I think in every session you should allow yourself to play something, you know. You know, but
so when you're looking through a Zoom screen or looking over the top of a music stand as a student, what is it that suddenly stands out to you that says, that person's going to go far with the guitar?
Okay, the first thing is, if it's a student that comes in, you can tell immediately if they're lying to you. So if you haven't practiced, don't say you have. Like, that's a killer for me. Like, you know, we know after 25 years of someone's practice. The people that get the furthest are not necessarily the people that are most talented. I have found that most of my most talented students have got to a certain level and then it kind of stops, okay? Kind of, you know, they get halfway there. I was the same. I never practiced. I was awful. Well, I played all the time. I never stopped progressing. But, you know, that was always a bit bad for being somebody that was doing what he was told to do by his teacher. The ones that progress the furthest are those that both enjoy it and can get there quickly. Now, what I've noticed, funny enough, since we started doing the courses, is the benefit for my own private students, both in my schools and the ones I teach outside of schools and adults and things, is their progress by using the courses that we've been writing is hugely quicker. And that's not me trying to go, hey, buy Guitar Week. I'm just notes because I'm writing it for them, and then we're using the content. Is because they are structured in a way that often a guitar book isn't. You see what I mean?
I do, yeah.
You get a lot of books, and how many have we bought which we found that are full of errors, or it's this or it's that. But what it doesn't do is put into practice how you should practice. So I think that's a key thing, and the people that follow that progress really, really fast. And the ones that put post-it notes on their books and take notes or film their lessons or say, I need to get that bit. The technique, getting that right. Those that are practicing with the correct technique. When people say, I can't play a bar chord, my fingers are too small. It's not true. Like I have played with people my hands are like spades, but they've got like tiny little spoons for hands, against mine. And they're, oh my goodness, they can do anything. It's, Django Reinhardt.
Yeah.
2 of his fingers didn't work. So, it's those things. I think a lot of us make excuses for why something isn't working.
But do you know what got me, Andy? It's about a year now, isn't it? It's about a year since we started all the group Zoom lessons. And I remember immediately after the first one, it was a freebie that we did. I think it was the Riverboat song or something.
It was.
We had tons of people on it. Yeah, and we had a call afterwards, and you struggled with it because you hadn't done that before with so many people. To teach it. And you're not the only one. All the other tutors, when they started off, have said the same thing. I'm interested from both the learning bit and the teaching bit. You were just amazed at how much pressure it was on you because you couldn't get any feedback from people. Everybody was concentrating like mad.
Because what's weird is, I think with the online side, and I think you can get a great deal from online, and I've learned massively from it. But as a teacher, that's why I think you need to be totally prepared in terms of what you're going to teach when you're teaching online. And when you come on an online lesson, you also have to realize that you're on an online lesson and there are limitations to it. Okay. And one of those things is you're not in a one-to-one lesson. So, if you say to me, what are the benefits of a one-to-one lesson compared to an online group lesson? Well, the benefits are, if you've got a good teacher, they can spot all those little things. You're going to get a lot of one-to-one attention. The thing I like about a group element is there isn't that pressure for you to go to a one-to-one lesson every week. You can drop in, you can have your mic muted, you can kind of learn at your own process. And if you're on one of my courses, you're going to get all the videos and everything that go with it. The thing I like about doing Guitar Weekend residentials is the camaraderie of it, and you have people who can help you. Okay, so you can have somebody who's a little bit better, somebody that maybe you're just as good as each other as players, but somebody knows more about this area and somebody knows more about this area. Students that I find progress really well are those when there's 2 people in a lesson. Okay, so they have a joint lesson. And what that tends to do is push them. There's another P for you. It pushes them to really practice properly because they want to come back next week and not be outdone by the other person. And actually, one thing I would say is when you are practicing yourself, it's also really good to try and play with other people. So don't be afraid to go with a simple 3-bar chord song and start going to open mic nights. And even if you don't sing, find someone who sings, because playing with other musicians is going to be massively beneficial to you. So that's also part of your practice, playing with high-level musicians. But the patience is something that a lot of us have to learn. I have to learn it with my voice. But I noticed I did 2 videos the past 2 days where I'm just saying, right, I've got 3 attempts. The 3rd one goes online no matter what. Yeah. And accepting, the perseverance, saying, well, I'm going to get better, but accepting that there will be errors, and that's not a problem. People aren't out there gunning for you to do really badly. No one wants.
Everybody wants you to do well, don't they?
Everyone wants you to do well. Everyone feels awkward when someone goes on stage and it's really bad. You're like, what do? You don't know where to look. But that's also setting yourself realistic goals. I think you should all set a goal that says, at some point, I'm going to have to perform. And that doesn't mean going to a pub and performing on open mic night or a gig. It might just be, I'm going to perform once they open lockdown to 5 people who I invite over to my garden for dinner, and I'm just going to say at some point I'm going to play for you guys. And there's your goal. That's you set that for 3 months away. Yeah, go for August or whatever, and work towards that. But to get to that point, you absolutely need to have a plan. And most of us have been, working, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever age we are. We know how to do that.
Yeah.
We do know how to do that. And actually, most of the stuff that you've learned in your working lives can absolutely be applied to learning an instrument.
Do you know, Andy, what's really interesting? I had a chat with Keith Pebbody. Does our bass.
Yeah, great bass player.
Fantastic. But it came because that was his first one he has done as an online. And he just echoed the same things you've been saying. When you do an online course, you have to do a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to get it planned and have the practice materials available, because this perseverance and patience you were talking about, and practice. For online, it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about them going away from the course and then doing their own thing.
And moving at your pace, but also pushing yourself. There's a fourth pace, pushing. These are all really important words. I absolutely advise having a highlighter and a pen and a pencil, and the pencil is there to take notes. The big marker Sharpie pen that you're going to use is to put the dates of what you want to achieve by a certain point. Absolutely. Last week there was a great question that was asked by a really nice lady from Italy. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. Elena, where she said, okay, I struggled with some of that. How do you think I should practice this? Great question.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is people who come on the courses shouldn't be afraid to ask more questions. Like, as we go through the course, don't wait until the very end, because it's at those moments that you really want to ask them when you're really struggling with it. And I think a really hard thing in music, which I'm sure applies to a lot of businesses as well, is just feeling like you're always going to be judged. Are people going to judge me? Am I going to look stupid? By asking a question, am I going to look like I'm not as good as somebody else? It's something that I've always liked about you, is you with what you did with Guitar Weekends. I mean, I've taught for a lot of places, and there's places I've stayed and there's places I've left. And Guitar Weekends is one of the places I've stayed because the way you do it, you put a lot of time into the people, and we have great people on the courses. They're fun to come along to, especially when we can have a beer, in the garden afterwards. But I think people, they can generally get stuck.
A quick one, on the word perseverance. Then, so if you get, have you ever had anybody come along to you, let's say on a one-to-one basis, where they've just run out of steam, they've got an episode of lack of confidence, self-esteem?
I can answer that immediately. Every single week.
Really?
Every single week. Yes, I teach nigh on 50, 60 one-to-one lessons a week. They're short 30-minute ones at the schools, and then outside of schools, hour lessons. Absolutely, you do all the time. But it generally comes down to how they were practicing in the first place.
Yeah.
Because their technique was wrong. Or let's stay away from saying everything's wrong all the time. I think this is something that a lot of teachers get wrong, is that we look at people's errors and we tell them that's not the way you should do it. Or when they make a musical error, say, a note is when they're improvising. Let's stop saying everything's wrong all the time. Let's just say, especially with sound and improvisation, we've all got our own voice musically. And this is the other thing when it comes to practicing improvisation. I get a lot of kids that come in, and you've got to remember, I never got taught improvisation. So I play with my sound, who I've listened to, the way I like to play. And I say to them, look, you'll get there. You shouldn't give up. What you need to do again is break down how much you're practicing. Like people try and achieve far too much. You got to break it down into nuggets in the way that you approach it. Just take one little thing. So let's say I had a kid the other day, and they were just like, I think it was like a grade 4 Trinity classical guitar piece, right? And it's by Fernando Sor. So, you're looking, it's like 253, or however old how long ago that was, 1700 or something. It's got some quite hard stuff. And there was just one line, they just couldn't get it. And we discussed it so many times, and they were like, I can't get it. And in the end, we put the stopwatch on and we did the same thing for 2 minutes. Now, at the end of those 2 minutes, they could do it.
Yeah, right.
It was really interesting, but it's because I think they were sat with me, so they had confidence because I was with them.
Yeah,
you know, and it's you've got to do things in the right way, but you've also got to allow yourself to do things in the wrong way and for those mistakes to happen.
to experiment.
Yes, don't give up. Just don't give up. You know, and actually, if what you want to do is play a song with 3 or 4 chords, and that's where you want to be, that's your goal, and you achieved that. God damn it, well done to you. You don't need to be the most flamboyant, astronomical lead line fingerstyle player. You really don't. Once you get to the point of being able to technically play what you want to play, you're now looking at perseverance. You're now looking at saying, right, what am I going to do now? My perseverance is to kind of get this to performance level. You know, how can I, you know, like the performance course we do, we take something that's somebody's here and it's like, that's pretty good. Okay, how can we get it to here? And it's your delivery, your musicality, your dynamics. And that's the bit where you've got to express yourself. The other thing, and I wish it started with a PH, but filming yourself, and then I could almost get it in. Filming yourself is an absolute must. Here's the one thing that, sorry, you aren't getting to ask questions. I'm just going for it. The one thing I've noticed as for 25 years is that as technology has got better, a lot of people aren't utilizing it enough. So, you know, we've all got these modern phones, you know, we've either got an iPhone or a Samsung or some kind of Nokia or whatever it is. They all have a camera function. They can all record. Now, a lot of the time, I find as a teacher that people think what they've just played is awesome. But the reality is not the case, because it's not musical, or the beat is dropping. There's not a consistent pulse. Where are we at now? About 20 Ps or something.
I've got about 10 there, yeah.
10,
okay.
You know, that thing. So start utilizing what's out there. Maybe you're going to go away and you say to yourself, I can't take my guitar. Well, there's still loads you can do. I found a couple of apps the other day. I wonder where I put them. Let me have a look. Yeah, there's one called Chet, CHET, right? You can probably, I don't know how well you can see that, but on my screen there, guys, it looks like a little kind of 3 key piano, called Chet, green box. And then there's another one called Ella. I found these the other day, actually advertised on Instagram of all places. Why would I be there? And they are for ear training. They're great. I mean, you know.
Hang on, Andy, I've got to answer another Andy. Andy has just asked, why has Ronnie never got a guitar in his hands?
Because he's always got a pen and he's always replying.
I'm always doing something else. I'm either it's a laptop but I do play the guitar every so often.
You know what though, Ronnie? When you and I get together, because guys, occasionally I'll go over to Ronnie's, mainly because he's got a snooker table in that room behind him there, and my wife and the kids will come over, and Mary and they'll go for a one. We're gonna be really productive. Yeah. There's another P. We're gonna be really productive, and we just end up playing snooker. But we play a lot of guitar. I think for you, I mean, do you pick up the guitar? And what do you do when you practice? And do you think you progress properly?
My practicing has definitely improved over the years, because I will do something very specific. It'll either be something to do with rhythm, or it could be something to do with the fretboard or whatever it might be. But I don't play as many tunes, if I call them that, as I used to. I used to play tons of stuff. And that's what I want to get back into now. Now
you're a great player.
Well, I'm okay, but
you're really good, Ronnie.
It's kind of I don't play anywhere near as much as I used to. So, I mean, as a hobbyist, and you're the professional on the side, I've decided I'm not going to ever be a professional. So you're accepting on your side of the music stand, for example, that, well, these guys and ladies have decided they're never going to be that height, that bit. So you've got to accept where they're aiming for.
You've got to, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that, you know, you need to know what your goal is. And I, as a teacher, need to know what your goal is. So whenever I get a student comes for their first lesson, we have a consultation, and it's like a half-price lesson. We sit there for an hour. I'll go over stuff that we're going to cover, stuff that we should cover. I also want to know what they want to do, you know, and I still say to some of my students, you know, now I've got one guy who's starting to like learn Eruption, you know, by Van Halen. And I went, do you know what? I can't play that stuff. That's not me. I say I like listen to it. I never really listen to it, and I certainly don't play it. Hey, you know what, you should go and have a lesson with this guy. Like, this is the other thing as teachers that teachers need to stop doing. Teachers should not be annoyed when students have lessons with other teachers. As a student, I think you should have lessons with as many people as possible. You know, you need to have your one person that really fits you. But
Andy, sorry.
Ooh.
Mike Davenport has eventually chirped up and he's asking you about his little finger. How can he strengthen? How can he start playing properly with it? But I think that's a much more detailed conversation.
It is, but you can probably do it quite quickly. I mean, you will probably find, Mike, that your hand is too angled, for one thing. You'll be like, okay, I'm trying to get it in camera. You'll be like this when you need to be like this. Okay. Now, Mike, if you can text on there what the stretch is, how many frets? Okay. There's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9. Okay. Now, that's not necessarily to do with how big my hand is. It's to do with the position of my hand upon the neck, how I sit with the guitar. If my guitar goes this way, no. Okay. Sorry, I'm being silly about it. Whatever. Okay. Well, you know, where your thumb is, those things. But I mean, those are the things that the questions that definitely need to, you know, you need to be answered in person.
And I'll tell you, Andy, either you or I, with the newsletters coming up, the May one's coming up soon, I think we'll do an exercise in there for little finger stretching.
Okay, yes. And actually, I think I have an exercise in a book somewhere that Nick, you guys, Nick and I, we brought that album out back in 2020 and never advertised it. Go and look up AJ Moore and Nick Rundle if you're really into acoustic, proper full-on guitar playing. He has an exercise because he's got even... The funny thing is, he's got bigger hands than me, right? But he can't stretch as far. And it comes from my classical practice. He has big palms, though, and not as long fingers. But it's all to do with technique. But he has a great one that's just... You should do... Everyone knows this, right? Just quickly. Everyone does the, you know, where every teacher goes, hey, do this. And you go like that. Why don't you stretch it?
That's too hard.
No, but then now put everything with slurs. So instead of pluck, 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 you're going to go play, hammer on, play, hammer on, play, hammer on, play, hammer on, play, and then do that with stretches. You'll get it, Mike.
Do you know
perseverance and patience?
No, it was really spooky because I'd actually put a little exercise together. It's exactly that. Just playing the scale of A major, coming down the 5th fret. You're hammering on with the little finger, but then you're pulling off to the next note and then pulling off to the next. You're not using this hand at all. That's really good.
Actually, another really good exercise that you could... Well, we're going on to exercise.
Oh, hang on. We better be careful here about the time. I just know I can see Nat. Oh, no. Andy, can I mention 2 things before Natalie gets in? Right.
You love me.
Right. Last one. How much do you like the light bulb movement? When you see somebody who's actually just gone...
It's great. It's really great. Like, so we had that thing... that we were doing last week where I've got my amp turned off, but you know, where we're doing the putting barcodes into practice. I've done that quite a lot recently, and there's been loads of people have gone, I never thought about doing it like that. And then when you show them how they can get to the cycle of keys by using the dots on the guitar, they go, oh my god, why didn't anybody show me this? Those moments are great because it pushes them forward at such an extreme rate. The simple things, it's the same in technology though, isn't it? The simple things that people have made, like the wheel, well, that wasn't simple to come up with.
No.
But they're the things that are the light bulb moments. Get yourself back to the basics. Get your knowledge in there. And that will be the light bulb moment.
On that point, from a hobbyist viewpoint, the thing I would say to most people, from me, what I've learned from the likes of you is this business about 50-50. There's 50% of what I want, and then there's the other 50%. You know what I need, and it's having the guts to actually stick with what you say. And if you do that, and that's why I think my tune playing has dropped because I've been focusing on the stuff that I need to do. But on that note, I think Natalie's bursting to get in here and say something. We are time.
I'm bursting in to say that that's over 20 minutes now. Oops. And I know, as always, we could continue talking even longer. Andy did actually touch upon a Facebook Live that we did a couple of months ago, maybe. The basics, wasn't it? The fundamentals of.
Yeah.
So do go back to the Facebook page album and look under the videos. And I'd encourage everybody to look back at the past Facebook Lives that we've done. But just before we finish up, Andy, I wanted you to tell everyone about your next Guitar Weekend course.
So next Monday, ladies and gentlemen, let me put the reverb on. Ladies and gentlemen, next Monday at 7:30, we will be running Read Rhythm 3. Thank you. In all good bookstores, but only online.
Oh, God.
Ronnie.
Brilliant.
Okay, so a quick one. It's basically...
Sounds like Die Hard 5 the way you're going on about this, but yeah.
With Bruce Willis.
Oh, yes.
It's all about reading rhythm. That's pretty obvious from the title.
Yeah.
Ronnie and I like to go for extremely exciting titles. It really tickles the fancy of the brain nuts there.
Yeah.
It's all about reading rhythm, but it's... if you've done the previous 2 courses, I would definitely suggest, I kind of expect to see you there because you should, because it's the 3rd one and the final one at this kind of stage. If you can basically kind of read rhythm already, it would still be a really good course for you to come on if you want to kind of catch up on the things. Basic things. Yeah, so we're going to do all rhythms from whole notes down to 16 notes. That's semi-breves to semi-quavers, dotted notes, ties, looking at staccato and accent markings and how they affect things. But we're also going to start delving into being able to transcribe rhythm patterns. So we're going to look at, I'm going to teach you how, if I put 9 rhythms on the board and I play 1, I bet within 2 minutes, I could have Natalie being able to do it. It's just about how you hear music. And this is one of the things that a lot of people kind of just don't do in the correct way. We don't open our ears enough. So start listening to songs. So I think I'm going to set you all a task. I want you to find a song, not one that you've played, just find a song or something you hear on the radio and start trying to tap that rhythm, whatever the singer or the guitarist is playing, and see if you can write it down. So that's the 3rd step of the lesson, is then I will play you a rhythm and I'm going to show you some really cool techniques that you can use to be able to start transcribing. So writing down those rhythms. And there are tons of takeaway materials. There's a video I've done just telling you all about it. So when we finish this, we'll post it on the Facebook page for you. And then you can watch that rather than listen to me rambling along like a human.
Andy, do you know, your rhythm stuff has really infected me, because when I go swimming...
Infected?
Not infected. when I'm going up and down the lane swimming, I'm actually going tea, lemonade, lemonade, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola.
I'll be doing that in your mind, mate. You're right, he's breathing in water.
Oh, no, it's really good, because make sure each arm is going in and it's very bright.
But anyway, it really works, this whole thing of using, again, honestly, guys, a lot of you would think, I'll never be able to read music. That's a step too far. It's not at all. It's not at all. Most of you don't need to be able to read pitch. You don't need to read the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You don't need that. You just need to be able to do the dun, da, 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 dun, 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 da, da, dun, 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 da, 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 da. So
Natalie, can I ask you a question about Andy?
Natalie's got a dance song. Come on, girl.
Hang on, if Facebook Live was
Sorry, Ronnie, we don't care about you now.
It was an Olympic event, would Andy end up on the podium, do you think? I think it would. Probably a gold.
Yeah, but you know what I was going to say to actually something that Natalie did there was Natalie sang virtually perfectly back the rhythm and you were on the right note that I played. That's something else you should try. I used to do it with like African drums, where I'd put 20 drums around the room and it's just call and answer. You should do that yourself. Like you should hear a rhythm and you should just play it back. Now, if you can hear it and play it, you're halfway to transcribing it. Do you know what I mean? And then you just need to learn how to break that down. So yes, Read Rhythm 3, it is about reading rhythm, but it's about taking it further and giving you some really cool stuff. So, if you want to join a band or you want to do some gigs or you've written some songs, but you don't know how the hell to write it down and you want pro musicians to be able to play it, this is going to be the one for you. So definitely come and join us.
I put the link to that in the comments, and we will share the promo video that Andy did as well.
Yes.
So definitely, and also I'll put the link to the What's On page for Guitar Weekends, because there are lots of courses coming up for all levels and all abilities. So if you love what you're seeing here and feel like maybe that's too advanced, or don't hesitate ever to get in touch with Ronnie and the team and to look up what's going on and what's coming up on the website.
Yeah. I was going to back that up and just say, go on as many different tutors as possible, different types of courses. Even if you think it's too hard for you, you get materials. Trust me, if you were doing one-to-one lessons with anyone, you're going to be spending £40 to £60 depending on where you are in the country.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get materials like that. You'd be doing the same thing for 6 weeks. So
And-
take the
and my
chance
last
to get
point-
it.
And we've got loads of residentials coming. I think, Andy, yours is the first one, is the performance one.
I
And
know.
if you've not been on a residential one and you're worried about it, come on an online one. I mean, you've got to feel for what Andy's like now. I'm sure you do if you've not been on one of these
Oh,
before.
we have a good drink in the evening, and I don't even
we
drink
have
alcohol.
a good time, and it's fairly relaxed and paced and structured, but we go off piece sometimes. Residential offers us so much more in terms of what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
But I think you're wrapping up, are you, Natalie?
I am. I'm just going to wrap up by saying thank you to everybody, actually, everybody who's watched and everybody who's left comments. But Terry, I think, sums it up perfectly when he says, time to set himself some new goals. So thank you very much. And I think that's exactly what it's about. It's continuing to set yourself goals and to challenge yourself. So, yeah, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Go forward with
and-
positivity. That's number 4.
Absolutely.
Just be positive about your practice.
Yeah.
Just really be positive, honestly, and you will thrive at the guitar. It's one of those wonderful instruments.
Definitely. And then just lastly, the very last thing, if you just want to listen to some music this Friday, International Jazz Day, 8 p.m. on the Facebook page, grab yourself a glass of wine, tune in to hear Jamie play some wonderful jazz for the evening. I'll put a link there as well.
It'll be very good. It will be good. We all know what he's like. He's great.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Okay, I think that's it.
That was great.
Thanks, guys.
Anyway,
It was lovely to see you both.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Andy. And I'll speak to you soon. And thanks, everybody out there. And I think I'm just going to say goodbye to the locations. Everybody's put the location on it. Loughborough, Isle of Wight, gosh, Cumbria. Good heavens.
Hey,
How
Cumbria.
are we
That's
looking?
I'm from Carlisle, whoever lives there.
Whoever lives there. That didn't sound too good. Right.
Well, I don't know. I can't see where they are.
That was Terry Clark.
Terry. Oh, Terry.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Well,
Okay.
go and say hello to me, Dad.
Right, guys, have a lovely evening.
Okay.
Thank you very
Take
much.
it easy, everyone. Okay. Thanks again, Andy. Thanks, Natalie.
No problem.
See you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Goodbye.
See you soon. Hope